Welcome to the Kerri Lane Show. I'm Kerri Lane. Today, a federal judge slams the brakes on Trump's deportation flight, turning a legal decision into a hostage crisis. Plus, a judge blocks Trump's bold move to hold Harvard accountable for anti-Semitism. Then, CNN, they get scorched by a Jewish Columbia graduate. I'm going to show you the viral moment that is lighting up social media. And James Comer makes a bold move, turning up the pressure on President Biden's doctor and closest aides. Glad to have you along today. We begin with the significant Supreme Court ruling that just came down, allowing President Trump to move forward, at least for now, with the removal of 2 Democratic appointees from federal boards. Now, while this is a notable win for the administration, it's important to stress that it's only a temporary victory.
These people can be fired. You can keep them out of these positions on these 2 federal boards, independent boards, while the case is proceeding. But the court was also very clear in noting we're not getting to the merits of this, of whether these firings are 100% going to hold, but we're allowing you to do them in the interim because they said, really, there's more harm to the government if the executive is forced to employ people that they don't feel like is carrying out the executive branch wishes than there is to telling somebody they can't have the job for now.
At the center of this case is a key question. Can the president remove independent federal board members at will? Now, while Trump has been vocal about his frustrations with figures like Fed Chair Jerome Powell, the court made it very clear in this decision that removal without cause is not allowed. The House Oversight Committee is turning up the pressure on President Biden's inner circle. Chairman James Comer has asked Biden's former White House doctor, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and 4 of his top aides to show up for a little chat, or they can face a subpoena. Comer sent a letter to the doctor writing in part, quote, "The committee seeks information to ensure accurate information was provided to the American people and that your health reports were not subject to any improper influence." The chairman also has his suspicions of who is really running the White House.
During the end of the Biden administration, that our sources were telling us that Hunter Biden was spending more time in the Oval Office than Joe Biden. I said on some shows that Hunter Biden was essentially the de facto chief of staff.
Sounds like the Oval Office may have seen more Bidens than a Delaware dinner table. Let's move to Boston, where 2 separate federal judges are interfering with Trump's agenda. The first is Judge Brian Murphy, who issued a stunning ruling halting a deportation flight already in the air with 8 convicted illegal criminals on board. His order? Force agents to administer credible fear interviews. And if any of these criminals claim danger abroad, then they're instructed to give them 15 days to reopen an immigration case with full access to phones and lawyers. So as a result, the flight was forced to land in a foreign country where the judge says, yeah, you can remain there for the next 2 weeks, providing that the illegals stay in U.S. custody. This is starting to feel like a hostage situation. Here's the White House.
Judge Murphy is forcing federal officials to remain in Djibouti for over 2 weeks, threatening our U.S. diplomatic relationships with countries around the world, and putting these agents' lives in danger by having to be with these illegal murderers, criminals, and rapists. This is completely absurd.
Let me show you who this judge is protecting. This is a 46-year-old Cuban man convicted of robbery and attempted second-degree homicide. He has had a final removal order since 1999. Then we have a 48-year-old sentenced to life for first-degree murder and attempted murder. This individual, convicted of attempted first-degree murder and felon in possession of a firearm, ordered deported in 2012. And it doesn't end there. Every one of these violent offenders on board this flight all have final orders of removal spanning over 20 years. And this lower-level judge is now mandating they all receive fear screenings.
Judge Brian Murphy is not the Secretary of State. He is not the Secretary of Defense or the Commander-in-Chief. He is a district court judge in Massachusetts. He cannot control the foreign policy or the national security of the United States of America, and to suggest otherwise is being completely absurd. According to new reporting about this judge, he's a registered Democrat in Massachusetts who during his Senate confirmation hearings failed to disclose his ties to a radical left-wing organization that claimed the word illegal to describe illegal aliens was inherently prejudicial. This massive judicial overreach by Judge Murphy is part of the same opposition our administration has faced since day one.
Now to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and the Trump team, who are facing a major setback just hours after announcing the revocation of Harvard's student exchange visitor program certification. A federal judge appointed by President Obama, Allison Burroughs of Massachusetts, has issued a temporary restraining order allowing the university to continue enrolling foreign students. Here's how Harvard is responding.
University President Alan Garber said in an open letter that it imperils the futures of thousands of students and scholars across Harvard and serves as a warning to countless others at colleges and universities throughout the country who have come to America to pursue their education and fulfill their dreams. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin fired back against Harvard's lawsuit, claiming the move seeks to kneecap President Trump's powers, writing, "It is a privilege, not a right, for universities to enroll foreign students and benefit from their higher tuition payments to help pad their multi-billion-dollar endowments." Harvard is also facing huge cuts to federal research funding and the potential revocation of its tax-exempt status.
Now, this whole controversy began Thursday when Noem sent this letter to the university accusing them of allowing violent activity on their campus that promoted anti-Semitism.
They will no longer be allowed to participate in this student exchange visitor program, and that's up to 27% of their enrolled students. So it's significant. Any foreign student that wishes to get an education in this country that is attending Harvard and not participating in this criminal activity, they will have to find another university to go to, because Harvard has chosen instead to not protect their students and to allow this kind of violent and discriminatory action continue.
Now, CNN spoke to a Harvard professor who reacted to the news, and you're not going to believe what he said. Watch this.
I would ask them what violence they're pointing to, what anti-Semitism they're pointing to, what coordination with the Chinese Communist Party they're pointing to. These are outrageous statements, and I think it's become increasingly clear that the public doesn't believe these. The American public doesn't believe this, and they are leveling these outrageous claims to try to win this political battle.
Seriously? He's not aware of anti-Semitism on his own campus? And CNN doesn't even push back? Let me show you the facts. Here's Harvard students in November of 2024 yelling, "Zionists are not welcome here."
Not welcome here! Zionists not welcome here!
Oh, that steps it up.
Say it loud and say it clear! Zionism not welcome here!
And then in September of 2024, Jewish students were intimidated by their own peers at Harvard. And I would love to know what the professor has to say to this Harvard student who spoke out this past July.
It was awful. So when I was walking to class, there were these self-appointed safety marshals with these bright yellow vests who would monitor Jews as they were walking, recording them, not speaking, but following us at every hour of the day. At one point, they used bolt cutters to try to break open the gates of Harvard to allow the outside community to rush in. They had signs saying, if you want to access this part of campus, you have to talk to us first. And this was happening outside of the office of the president of Harvard, Alan Garber, who's a useless leader who's done nothing about the situation.
The media is so complicit in all of this. It is infuriating. Now, Kristi Noem, she argues she has given the school multiple opportunities to share any background information they may have or criminal activity on any of these students. However, Harvard, they have refused to comply.
Harvard has a history of allowing not just protests, but violent protests where students were assaulted, they were discriminated against, they were verbally abused, and they've even facilitated a training for a paramilitary group affiliated with the CCP. So it's not just pro-Hamas activities that they have allowed to have happen on their campus. They've also allowed participation with Communist China, who considers the United States one of their greatest enemies. This is something we're not going to continue to allow to have happen. This is something I'm responsible for, is to provide this type of oversight, and we're going to ensure that every university protects every single one of their students on their campuses.
I want to turn your attention now to the story regarding the 2 Jewish embassy staffers who were murdered the other day, because a Columbia grad who witnessed that heinous crime compared the man responsible for it to the protesters he faced at Columbia. Watch this.
But what I saw in his eyes, I mean, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But they did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission. And they have called for this. They have called for intifada revolution, which is the same thing he yelled last night.
Are you afraid?
Yes.
Remember when the left said Trump's rhetoric incited violence on January 6th? What about now? Where's the outrage when anti-Semitism turns deadly, or when violent protesters intimidate students? And have you noticed how quiet they are on gun control? That's how you know it's one of their own. Now, turning to some explosive video just released, showing Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan allegedly helping an illegal immigrant evade ICE. Now, with your own eyes, you can see the moment the judge steps in.
Judge Dugan and another judge approached the agents sitting on the bench. A criminal complaint against Dugan later said she was alerted to their presence by a court official. That complaint says during this interaction, Dugan and the agents disagreed over the type of warrant they had to arrest Flores Ruiz. According to the complaint, Dugan ordered the agents to go to the chief judge's office. Shortly after that, with the agents gone from the hallway, Eduardo Flores Ruiz and his attorney exit into the hallway through a different door. As they walk down the hall toward the elevators, they pass another plainclothes federal agent. Neither they nor Judge Dugan seem to have noticed at the time. That agent motions to another to follow Flores Ruiz. Security video shows Flores Ruiz exiting through a basement exit. Upstairs on the 6th floor, the other agents have left the chief judge's office and worked their way downstairs. Flores Ruiz left the building onto 9th Street. Videos of the street shows the agents catching up to him. Flores Ruiz runs across 10th Street while trying to get away, but the agents catch him and arrest him.
Tough to argue what's on tape. Now, Dugan has pleaded not guilty and is due in federal court on July 9th for a pretrial hearing. Her actual trial will start on July 21st. Still ahead, oh boy, fireworks between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Senator Chris Van Hollen. Rubio is a force to be reckoned with. Plus, a congresswoman who pushes ICE agents goes before a judge, and I break down the details in Trump's big, beautiful bill. Go ahead, click that video you see now on your screen, and I'll see you over there.